enter the second part of the year, Lord, I ask you, Lord, just continue to show good things over Columbiana and let it continue to go in a positive direction. God, as always, we thank you for the people that protect our city and the workers that just make it go on a day-to-day basis. And God, I ask you just be with us tonight as we meet and we discuss and we talk about things for the city. As always, just let it be for the benefit of the city and the people that live within it. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to ask everyone to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, there's the agenda up on the screen, and while you guys take a look at that, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Lilly.
Here.
Mizell.
Here.
Rustin.
Here.
King. Here. Phillips.
Here.
Mayor Mitchell.
Here, everybody's here, so we have a quorum. So I'll give you a few more seconds to look over the agenda, pretty standard agenda. And we'll move on to the first item of the agenda, which as always is the approval of the minutes of the last regular council meeting on July 18th. Council members have had an opportunity they've had a copy of the minutes and they've had an opportunity to read them. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Okay, if not, then let the record show that the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. And we will start off with our department reports and the fire department.
Yes, sir. Well, didn't get turned in PowerPoint. I was running a little behind, so we didn't get that done this time. But it's still there from last time. The pretty much the fire department, everything is still like it was, still running the same. Brad's been working hard on the budget. We finally got that completed, and I think he got that turned into you and discussed with you. We currently have one of our first out engine. It's actually in the shop. We dropped some bearings in the transfer case on the Masonic Lodge fire. So it's in the shop getting repaired and got parts ordered. Don't know how long that's going to take. They're coming from the manufacturer. But we do have a reserve in place. We've got the station, pretty much, we're doing the maintenance on it. The guy should be completing the painting on it downstairs this week. It actually looks 100% better. Been a while since it's been painted. Pretty much that's it. Everything rocking and rolling right along.
Okay.
I got an opportunity to work with the grant. Still, myself and Charlene, we've both been busy in different areas. So
This being that forestry grant?
well, the retention grant.
Oh, okay.
I've got a couple of prospects, and I need to get kind of lined up on how we're going to do that and start that off. But they're on hold, and they're good with that. So when we get that lined up, everything will start rolling. Other than that, everything else is about the same.
Any questions for the chief?
That Mason Lodge, did they ever determine what caused that? Did I see
No,
something?
you know, we gave them the option at the end of that situation of whether if they want us to call somebody in or they want to use their insurance company to keep from overlapping. A lot of times, if you don't suspect foul play or you don't have a suspicious reason, the insurance company, kind of like to take it on their own. So that's what the Masonic Lodge members chose to do. So I never really got a report from the insurance company on what they did, but they took it and went from there. So.
Is it, like these old houses, I've never been in there, but was it pine walls and all that in there?
Oh, it was a lot of pine.
Yeah.
It was a lot of strange construction. You got to think it was a standard oil depot back in the 30s and 40s. So it was floor system was laid out extra strong. Had a bunch of void areas in it. Attic was different. Had a couple of different roofs on it. So it was and it had a good head start on us. So it was it's kind of playing catch up when we got there. But unfortunately, in the end, it ended up being a loss. So we tried.
You say when you got there, though, what I understand that the police actually saw it on patrol, right?
Yeah, they found it on patrol.
But you probably caught it at a good time because it could have burnt post office, the car
Well,
lot
the
behind it.
exposures were a pretty good distance. Our main concern was the Columbiana tractor, the old Columbiana tractor. He actually, Mr. Lucky, had a fifth wheel camper parked out back, and that was the closest thing we had to it. So that was our main concern, protecting his camper. But
Wow. Good job.
everything went well.
Any other questions for the chief? All right, library.
you know, we're still there, we're still trudging along. We don't have the stats for July just yet, since it is the first of the month. Summer reading was really, really good this year. We had a lot of participants. I think our total amount was like 125, 130. We had, this is a really good participation. We are starting back in August with our regular scheduling. On August 16th, we are starting back with Homeschool Adventures. And then on the 28th, we are starting back with Reimagining School Readiness, and of course that will last all year. So really, we're good. Traffic, we had an estimate of 1,324 visitors for the month of July. So that's pretty good for a library our size, but yeah, everything's still going along, and you know, we're looking forward to the next year and doing some good stuff.
Questions for Jennifer?
Why do you think, Jennifer, that the activity is up? It's a good thing, but what would you pinpoint to say? I know you wasn't here last summer, so you wouldn't know that, but
Right. Well, that was part summer reading. We did some older stuff from the library, and have bought newer materials to take their place. We are taking an interest in what people are reading, and we're trying to buy materials that they want to read. So they're visiting our library versus like maybe going to Chelsea or Wilsonville or things like that. So the area people are staying in the area.
that's good.
We talked about was it the last meeting where we talked about getting the new books and stuff that you were just talking about?
Yes. Yeah, the Spanish materials and the the graphic novels. Those are still on the rise. You know, of course, we're advertising it. Say, hey, you know, come see our new books. We have not heard back from LSDA. There has been a snag at APLS, but we should hear something back mid-August, beginning of September, about those applications. So,
Those two programs that you were talking about,
Homeschool Adventures and Reimagining School
can you
Readiness.
just briefly describe what those are?
Homeschool Adventures is a program for basically geared toward homeschool. A lot of them deal with STEM, which is science, technology,
Math.
yeah, math, and
Engineering and math.
yeah. I know we've done like built volcanoes. We've had scavenger hunts through the library. You know, just kind of get outside of the regular classroom, the homeschool classroom. Reimagining School Readiness is a program for kids in preschool through eight-year-olds. Basically, it's just helping with reading skills, writing skills, just skills that they need for education in middle school and high school.
And are there like instructors for those things?
No, that is actually run by one of my staff members, Kathy Jones. And we did have to go through training for Reimagining School Readiness through APLS. APLS actually has a lot of resources when working with Reimagining School Readiness.
So is there like a little class, or is it like an online type thing that they do?
It is in person. We have done things like scavenger hunts are always popular. I know this month we're doing a fossil dig with them. You know, just different things to kind of, you know, help with reading skills and things like that.
Okay, good. Sounds great. Any other questions for Jennifer? Okay. Environmental services.
There hasn't been a whole lot of changing going on in our department. We've turned in our budget, we're still looking for grade 2 operators, and we're getting geared up for our 2023-24 training. Then the only issues and concerns is depending on my guys, when they get finished with their classes in August, they'll go take their grade 2 exam, and if they pass the grade 2 exam, we're grade 2 plant now. But when they change the rigs, we get a new plant rehab, all that could change and throw us into a grade 3 eventually. So that throws us in a different staffing requirement, where the plant has to be operated 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. So only 2 days a week with their license be good holding a grade 2. So the grade 3 is gonna have to be staffed there 8 hours a day inside the facility. So they would be the ones going out to the job sites during the day. One of them eventually, when all this goes into effect, cause it'll take the plant 2026 is when it's gotta be complete. So it'll take, a couple of years to build the plant. Then if the new regs go in effect sometime next year. So they've got time to still educate themselves, to go take the grade 3 exam. That way everybody can rotate. Everybody's not working weekends and stuff like that. But it's going to be a little different. We used to be a grade 3 facility back in, I know in 2002 was a grade 3. And then I think we got looking at our design of the plant and got that dropped back to a grade 2 probably 10 years ago maybe. So that's how we're getting by with staffing right this moment. So that's all I have on that part. Then on the highlights and opportunities, we're almost finished with the plant rehab drawings. So hopefully, that'll be bid out or be ready to bid out the end of August, sometime in September, hopefully.
Questions for Dave? I am not sure the benefits of this grade 2, grade 3 thing. I mean, just by virtue of getting our guys trained makes us grade 3. I mean,
Is it what now?
did you say just by virtue of getting our guys trained it would turn us into a grade 3 operation?
No, we're depending on the new regulations. If the new regulations classify your plant by population, we could possibly stay at grade 2. If not, if they change that up and leave the plant classification the way it is now, that depends on our water flow that our plant is designed to discharge. So right now we're at 944,000 gallons. When you hit 1 million, you turn into a grade 3 plant. 1 million to 5 million gallons is a grade 3 plant with the current regulations.
So is that the actual water flow or is that?
That's the plant design.
Plant design.
What we're able to treat if we
So
had that
on
much
the
water.
population side, is that the city's population or is that the number of users?
No, it's going to be city population.
You know what that number is, that threshold?
No, they're still working on all of that.
Okay, are these ADEM regulations or are
ADEM
these
regulations.
EPA regulations?
They do.
All right, more to come.
But if it goes to population, does it take away the water flow stipulation?
I mean, some of it's going to be a blessing, because if you got 1 million, say they go by population and your plant was built for 2 million gallons, all right, and that plant's not going to change. It's still able to treat 2 million gallons of water. But if they change the new regs, it's going to benefit some cities because they're going to drop down a grade. They'll go to a grade 2. So it just depends how they're gonna classify all this stuff.
Will they have to take another test if we go grade 3 after the grade 2 exam?
Yes, they'll have to take another grade 3 exam.
Because the biggest issue with the grade 3 is the 7-day-a-week staffing
Right,
at the plant.
at the plant. I mean, we got log books now, we have to sign in and out. So, then our lift stations have log books when they go around and check those. So if you can play the calendar, we used to play that calendar all the time because our Saturday starts on, our week starts on Saturday. So the guys would
You
come
might
in.
want to take the fifth now, Dale.
So the guys would come in and work Thursday, Friday with a grade 2 at a grade 3 facility. So you could work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then the grade 3 operator come in and work Monday with the grade 2 operator Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. That grade 2 got 4 days off in a row, that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday the next week. Then the grade 3 operator worked through. So every 2 weeks they get 4 days off in a row.
But it can't be remotely monitored, you have to be on site.
I mean, it's a lot of stuff to keep up with.
Does everybody understand it all?
Yes.
No, I'm probably confused.
Any more questions for Dale? Community Affairs and Senior Services.
Things are going pretty well. We have 2 more farmers markets, 1 more music on Main, and then on the 11th is the community pep rally in Oklahoma Square Park. So that's gone very, very well this summer, and it will wrap up in about 2 weeks. The Senior Center served about nearly 1,100 meals in July. In the Grand Hall, we have not a whole lot scheduled this month in hopes that we can do those floors, get those floors finally refinished. So, the only big thing that we have is the little Explorer. I have to stop myself from saying Explorer because that's what we've called it for so long. It is having some major transmission problems, and so that's what we use to deliver Meals on Wheels. So we're having to kind of pivot with that. So it's interesting, but we're not driving that until we can figure out what's going on. But it is a very old vehicle that we inherited from the police department. And I think before that, did it belong to you, Johnny, before the police department? So it's pretty old. So it's time.
Is it in the shop?
It is, so, yeah. I'm not sure it's worth fixing, but.
Questions for Alan? Okay. Well, I know we had a planning commission meeting. In fact, we had a few. Who would like to discuss that?
Mayor, you did a pretty good job.
I was an interested observer.
Let's see, on our July 27th meeting, we had 2 rezoning applications that were approved. One was on Highway 47 from R1 to RMH, and the other was on Highway 70 from R3 to A1. Then we had subdivision applications, one from High Point, well, both were from High Point. The lots are staying, it's just dividing lots into different acre lots, but they're still staying the large lots. And this is off Amos Mitchell Road. And we tabled the Saddlewood Trails final plat, but then there was a special meeting last night where that was approved. And then there was one request to take 2 parcels to one, which we just had to have it in the minutes so that Shelby County GIS could have something to record, showing that those 2 parcels went into one. That was a very short version of what happened in like 3 meetings.
Any questions?
The R1 to RMH, did that get approved?
It was just the application.
Okay.
So next month,
That mobile home?
what month is this?
August.
August.
No, actually, it'll be It'll probably come to the planning in September for the public hearing, and it'll come to, if it's approved, it'll come to council in October for a public hearing.
This side or this side, 47?
Front of the church across,
Yes, in front of Church
that
of
main
Christ.
road,
On
right
the-
across the
yeah.
road,
Straight across the road.
where all the chickens were. That whole strip, what separates those properties is the railroad, the pipeline. So everything behind the pipeline is RMH, everything that's on the right of way is R1.
And they want to put a mobile home there.
So when somebody turns in an application, then we'd have to take it to the commission.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for planning? Were there any other boards or committees that met? All right, this transportation plan, Charlene, I'll let you, we do this every year. Okay,
We do.
so I'll let you explain that.
This is a requirement of the Rebuild Alabama Act, which is the 10-cent gas tax. So every year in August, by the end of August, we have to submit about what we expect funding to be for next fiscal year and what roads that we will pay for that. So I got with Alan and he listed Goodwin and or Washington Street. And so this is just part of that has to be, passed and approved every year for that, to get that money.
Is Washington Street by the high school?
Yeah.
Would it go all the way down to the curve at Pitts Drive?
We did not,
Okay.
and so we will.
With this one?
That's what the plan is, yeah. And they're gonna, I think they wanna paint those, Wildcat ponds
Mhm.
again, so we'd like to get that paved early so that we can get that done
Yeah.
in the next fiscal year. Any other questions about, resolution for the transportation plan? And so the resolution, without reading all the other stuff, it says we have to keep it in a separate fund, we all know that. And we have to adopt this transportation plan by August 31st, so for the next fiscal year, which is what we're doing now. So the bottom line, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Columbiana that the city intends to spend the expected funds from a gas tax of $48,000 on paving projects on Goodwin Street and or Washington Street, so entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, why don't you do a roll call vote,
Okay.
please?
Councilmember Lilly,
Yes.
Mizell,
Yes.
Rustin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes. Okay. All right, the fun subject. Last week, that was last week, though, last meeting,
The last meeting.
we tabled the discussion on this particular issue about an agreement with Dent Moses to help us develop a corrective action plan relative to audit findings that have been recurring findings. And the question was that there needed to be, or the comment was there needed to be more information, and so there was a motion to table the discussion. When the discussion is tabled, we didn't take this up for vote. It has to be brought up for discussion at the next meeting, so here we are. I would like to start the discussion because I think the council knows that I'm pretty passionate about this, and so I want to make my case for why I'm passionate, and hopefully that come across as reasonable, and we'll go from the discussion. So one of the reasons is the legislature puts quite a bit of responsibility on the mayor relative to the fiscal management of the city. Twice a year I do a semi-annual report, and one of the things that I'm supposed to do in that report is talk about the steps that the mayor proposes to take for the protection of the city or town. And it's talking about the financial protection and also dealing with protecting its credit rating as far as its indebtedness is concerned. But most importantly, the Code of Alabama says that the mayor shall appoint an accountant to make a detailed examination of all the books
and accounts of the city. That's basically the annual audit. I have obligation bestowed on me, I guess, by the state legislature to do that once a year. And then once that audit is complete, I have to make a report to the council under oath at the first meeting after the completion of the report, basically talking about that. The mayor, and this is the only time that the mayor is given the authority by the state legislature to enter into a financial contract with someone without the council's approval. So the mayor has to appoint the council and the accountant, and then the mayor enters into the contract with the accountant for that without the approval of the council. Last week, after we tabled this discussion, I looked into this and I consulted with the city attorney, and I said, well, given all of these responsibilities, given the findings in the report, given the fact that we had a budget line for professional services, could I, as the mayor, given that authority, just go ahead and enter into this agreement without the approval of the council? The city attorney said that he believed that I could. But I kept on reading and researching, and I did not feel comfortable with it. So here I am. I'm back to this discussion to hopefully get your approval to do that. Now, the audit, when it's conducted, has to be done in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards in a format prescribed by the Department of Examiners of Public Accounts. In the past, until this Municipal Audit Clarification Act was passed in 2022, the format of the audit was not specified. Our auditors have always done it in accordance with GASB, that's generally Government Accounting Standards Board, and that's basically what the state adopted is, okay, you have to do it in accordance with GASB standards. So we've been good as far as that's concerned. So then the Department of Examiners of Public Accounts put out some guidelines after that Clarification Act was, and says, okay, here's all the things that need to be in your audit report. These 7 items. The first one, which I changed the colors of the font here, I do that. I write the management discussion and analysis every time. At least I've done that since I've been mayor. And I do ask the city clerk to look at it, and if she agrees with it, she signs it because she has the dual role of city clerk and treasurer. But all this stuff in blue, we have to hire external accountants to do that for us because we don't supposedly have the capability to do that. I grade this out because we don't have any fiduciary funds, so we don't do that portion of it. But anyway, all this other stuff, and this is exactly what is in this audit report and has been for years. But now the state examiner has sort of made that a requirement, if you will. But the last one is where we're at right now, and that's the findings from an independent auditor's report on internal control and compliance, if performed or required. In some cities, that independent report is required. For us, in the past, it has not been, but our auditor has done it. So if performed, it has been performed, where the auditor has taken a look at our internal controls and our compliance with the GASB standards in looking at those internal controls. So that's the issue, is the findings from the auditor finding those things. In my discussions with a couple of different accounting firms, including the ones that do our auditors, because of all of the grant money that we've received in the past couple of years, in the next year, we would have to do these things anyway, whether or not we've been doing them or not. So it's kind of, the rules have kind of changed as a result of this, as well as the amount of federal funds that we've been getting through grants and whatnot. So there were findings in that auditor's report on their internal controls. And the ones that concern me are the material weaknesses, many of which were repeat findings. And a material weakness is defined as that, a deficiency or combination in internal control, such that there is a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of the entity's financial statements will not be prevented or detected or corrected in a timely fashion. And again, or corrected. So that's part of what we're talking about, is correcting some of the problems that we've had here. So that is serious because it could have potentially a negative impact, a significant negative impact on the city's financials. A significant deficiency is basically less severe than material weakness, but yet they've defined it as important enough to merit attention by those charged with governance. That's us, that's this council. So it says that the council, those of us charged with governance should address a significant deficiency and the more serious material weaknesses. So again, that's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about this. So these are 2021 audit findings. We're getting ready to release pretty soon our 2022 audit report. We're sort of dotting the I's and crossing the T's on it. I am not going to read all this, but these were the material weaknesses: lack of segregation of duties, repeat finding. I do think, I didn't put a, you'll notice the asterisk, there's not one here because you're not going to see that in 2022. The auditor, in having discussions with the city clerk and the treasurer, felt like that she had taken steps to correct that material weakness, so we didn't see it in 2022. My concern is we have no written procedures for that. So God forbid she gets hit by a truck or we lose her, she goes to work for somebody else. We have no process or procedure to fall back on. She's the single point of failure when it comes to that. So that concerns me quite a bit. And I'm glad that we did the things necessary so it wasn't a repeat in 2022. It's going forward that concerns me. Material audit adjustments, that was a repeat finding from prior years. It's also going to repeat. In other words, they found material discrepancies in the documentation in our financial reports that the auditors had to come in and fix. They had to correct for us. Significant deficiencies in non-compliance, preparation of financial statements. Again, management, and again, that's us. But when it comes to the Department of the Cities, that's me, okay? I'm the one that's responsible for the oversight and management of the city's departments. So management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of financial statements. Personnel are not currently in place who are adequately trained to prepare the financial statements in conformity with GAAP. That is one of the things that I asked Dent Moses to take a look at. Assess our training, see if there was something that they could do, look at the capability of training of our folks, and see if they couldn't develop a training plan to address that. And then we had some documentation issues with things like cemetery lot. We have problems with fixed asset management, and once again, what the auditor is suggesting is that we need to have approved written policies and procedures as far as our internal controls. We have, the only one I'm aware of, and this was because of an audit finding a few years ago, the only one I'm aware of is a credit card policy that we developed. We don't have it for anything else. We have right at $35 million of assets that the city is responsible for. So I think it warrants those written policies for us to make sure that we are properly managing that. Several adjustments were required to these interfund payables and receivables. This, again, is from FY21. Other items, again, this is just recommendations. And the recommendation of the auditor is that we should establish written internal controls, accounting procedures, and fiscal policies. At a minimum, the written policies related to accounting process should be these things: fiscal management, purchasing, investment, capital asset, capitalization, and inventory policies. So those are minimums that the auditor recommended. This is not a finding, this is a recommendation of the auditor after identifying those findings. So I apologize for this being so small. On my computer, it didn't look nearly as small as it does up there. But what I did is I wrote a statement of work for Dent Moses. I had spoken to them ahead of time. And simply asked them to take a look at the findings from the auditor's report. That's the first thing they did. Then I asked them to interview personnel, look at our policies and procedures, see what we have in place. And there aren't much. It's like I said, the only one I'm aware of is the credit card policy. Assess the capabilities and training of our personnel, as the auditor had said that we don't have people who can do GASB compliant. And if we can't do those, what's the alternative to that? Okay, because we do have to come up with a GASB compliant audit, and we do have to come up with GASB compliant financial statements, because you saw what the state examiner said, and right now we're paying outside accountants to do that. And then these two, 6 and 7, are the biggies that I asked them to do. Draft recommended policies and procedures to address audit findings and enhance internal controls applicable to segregation of duties. That's the big one that we've done a good job of addressing, but again, don't have a written policy for. Handling of cash, receivables, payables, et cetera, et cetera. And then also draft recommended training for relevant city staff as applicable, again, to the audit, corrective actions, and recommended policies and procedures. On the next one, I tell them, because we cannot just accept what they give us, so I suggest that they should collaborate and review their recommended policies and procedures with the city's personnel and policy committee, and then subsequently we in the city would adopt it. So that was what I asked them to do. Their proposal was nothing more than a regurgitation of those 10 things. They said, we're going to do those things, and we'll charge you $15,000 to do that. So that was the proposal. So this is my closing act, if you will. So according to the legislature, the council is the legislative branch, which says that the council has authority over finances and property. And again, I want to remind you, we've got about $35 million worth of city assets in addition to the finances. Which again, those $35 million of assets, they belong to the people of Columbiana, okay? And we are responsible for the care of those things. And the council also establishes policies, and you can go on and read all that other stuff, but again, that's basically what I am asking Dent Moses as professionals to help us do, so that we can develop and establish these policies that we don't have. So this is the stuff that talks about the responsibility or the requirement to have the council to approve, although the mayor executes contracts, it is the council's responsibility to approve that. The mayor doesn't do that. And even though in my discussion with the city attorney, he felt like under this circumstance, perhaps I did, I just am not comfortable with that. And although our city attorney does a great job, at the end of the day, the reason they call them counsel is because that's what they do. They provide us advice and counsel. They don't make decisions for us. So I'm going to ask that for your authority to execute that agreement with Dent Moses for all these reasons right here. So that's my arguments. Is there any other concern or discussion?
Of all the findings, how many can we solve internally, do you think? And, because you said we're gonna have to probably agree in the next year with all the public fund grants and stuff, correct? That we'll have to get in.
Well, we have to follow that format, but that's just the audit format, the things that you have to do, which includes that last item, which is the the auditor's assessment of internal controls. Our auditor has been doing that anyway, but we haven't been, for the most part, we've been ignoring what his findings are. I think that my personal opinion, and I'm not trying to cast any aspersions because these things go back to before this council. In fact, 2021, we didn't prepare that budget. You know, we were here when the audit was done, but we didn't, that 2021 budget, fiscal year 21 was prepared by the prior council and administration. But nevertheless, I don't think the legislature mandates an audit just to keep accountants gainfully employed. The legislature mandates an audit to find out are there any problems with our control of these public resources and our finances. And to me, it's implicit that you need to fix those if you find them. And, you know, they're looking for fraud. I don't think we have any issues with fraud that I'm aware of. They're looking for mismanagement, which is kind of an ugly word, but you can have accidental mismanagement. You can have mismanagement because we as a city didn't adequately train people, whatever, which is part of what I've asked these guys to take a look at. And then we all get caught in the trap of, well, we're doing it like we've always done it, you know, whether it's right or wrong, and policies and procedures change. So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question, Ashley. I want to ask it again.
Well, I was just saying, if, let's say there were 10 items, and we could correct 5, because I know everybody dreads an audit, you know, because they're gonna find things through the year, that's just what they do. I mean, is there any penalty for not doing it?
Well, for not doing the audit or not doing the corrective actions?
The corrective action, but if we correct internal stuff, we've tried to correct some problems.
So there is a penalty assessed on me if I don't get the audit done. It's $250 a day. So for failure to do that. That's new. That's part of this new Municipal Audit Accountability Act. As far as, again, I believe that correcting the issues identified in the audit is implicit. I don't believe that we have, as the auditor has said, I don't think we have the skills and expertise in our organization and to develop and implement effective policies and procedures to deal with these things. And that's why I think we need a professional help to do that.
So you're saying if we did this, then from now on, we would be able to handle that stuff?
Handle what?
The procedures and everything?
Well, I think so, yeah. Again, I told you the 10 things in the statement of work, but I told them, I said, look, we're a small city, so I don't want to make this thing so hard that you can't do it. Basically, that's what I said. I probably tried to say it a little bit more professionally than that. Said, let's not reinvent the wheel. There's got to be plenty of procedures out there, and I know there are because I've Googled some of them for small cities. Let's see if we can't adopt some of those. They represent, Dent Moses does, including the city of Calera. They do accounting for them. And so Calera is bigger than Columbiana, but still considered a relatively small city. So I asked them to, look at their expertise and help us to develop some policies and procedures that would work for Columbiana. And again, I'm just not sure that we have that expertise to do that. I know I don't.
Well, when we did the credit card policy, we got it from our auditors, and we just changed the wording and made it our own. So would that be the same as getting another auditor to do it?
Well, it's not an auditor. Dent Moses, I'm not hiring them to do an audit. Let me just talk about the issue of the auditor, which I have no issues with and great respect for them. And many of these League of Municipalities training sessions that I've been to in the last few years and dealing with audits, one of the things that is not required by the legislature is there's no requirement for you to change auditors over any period of time. The Alabama League of Municipalities recommends that you do that and get some